And I went up to my mom after like this service, and I was like, I said, hey, I was like, Mom, I said, I'm dumb. I was like, I'm stupid. I don't know anything. Like, I don't know. I was like, I need to go to school. And at the time, I remember she kind of just said, all right, good luck. Like, she was like, all right, if that's what you want to do, like, good luck. Like, yeah, I'll put you in. And so the next like coming year that came around, I went in, and I was a year behind. So I got put in a year behind what everybody else was in my age group. So I was with so that was also weird because the kids I went to church with, I wasn't with any of them in my school classes.
Trevor, I have met you at a amazing resort, one we may or may not mention. And I had gotten a massage from you, and this was very recently, and you had told me a little bit about yourself, and it was just enough to know that I could not wait to hear more. So thank you for coming on the show and sharing your life with us.
Yeah, I felt like when you met me, it's funny because I felt like I already like overshared a little bit with you, but there's something about you. I think it was very easy to share. I don't usually, I guess like open up that fast. But for sure, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I think we were both giving a little here and there, right?
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, okay, yeah, me too. And oh my goodness, so it was like we had some similar situations.
Yeah, the fact that you could relate to what I was saying, I think, and that I could feel like I could relate to what you were saying, it definitely helped me kind of open up a little bit. But yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks. So tell me about yourself. You were born in Provo?
Yeah. So I was born in Provo. I don't ever remember living there. I think we moved, Provo, Utah. I think we moved right afterwards. So within, I don't know, the first year or something like that, we moved to this tiny town called Levan, Utah. A lot of people don't even know where it is, but it's like if you go from like Nephi, and it's like 15 minutes south from there, but just a tiny town, like basically a gas station. And I grew up, spent the next 10 years in a trailer court there. So family of 7 kids, 6 siblings, 7 kids. And we lived just like in a single wide trailer in a trailer park. And so it was...
that's a lot of kids that's a big family for a single wide.
Yes, it was. It's funny though, because at the time, I mean, it was uncomfortable. But at the time, I didn't realize just like how crazy it was. And when we think back, I talked to some of my siblings about it now, and I'm just like, the fact that, there was 2 bedrooms, 2 small bedrooms. One side was our parents stayed there. The other side was my 4 sisters slept in that room, and the brothers would sleep in the living room. And it was like, so we would rotate. So there was 3 of us. One of us would sleep on the couch, and the other 2 would sleep on the floor. And so it was like every third night we got the couch. And we were just like super excited. And at the time it was just like, it was something, we didn't think a lot of it, but yeah, tiny space. And it was like on special occasions we'd get to, like Christmas or something, we might all get to sleep in the one bedroom with like the actual bunk beds and like share it. And we loved it. Like at the time you don't think of it as being anything different or weird.
Did you guys celebrate Christmas? Was that a holiday?
Yep, we still celebrate. Yeah, we celebrate all the holidays.
That was probably because your parents were bringing out the presents and putting them under the tree, so they needed you to all be in one room.
That's what it was. That's exactly what it was. Yep, they would say. I love it. They would say we weren't supposed to. I mean, we knew it was my dad, but yeah, so Santa could come and drop off the presents in the living room, and so we'd all pack into one and sleep in the closet and wherever we could, but anything different to us was fun. Like it was just, that's kind of how we grew up.
Yeah, it's all you knew. So yeah, that was special, getting the couch every third night.
Yep.
And you know what? I can appreciate that.
It was so fun. Yeah. Well, maybe not the funnest, but it was funny for sure. And then let's see. So I was there for 10 years. I don't know, you'll have to stop me as I talk, because I will definitely skip over some things, but the trailer court that we lived in was definitely one of the just like craziest times of my life. At the time, my dad was always like, he never held down a steady job. And sometimes we didn't know, where he was. He'd be gone for a couple months or something. And at the time we had no clue why. It was just like, okay. But my mom would always work. We called her a book dealer. So like there's a secondhand store here called DI Desert Industries. Mm-hmm. And they have them all the way from Provo up to Salt Lake City. And there was something like, at the time, I think there was something like seven or 10 or something like that. And so for her work, we would drive every day from Levan up to Salt Lake and hit every single one of those, trying to find like good deals that she could buy and resell. So books, textbooks. And we would do that every single day, all day. So we'd get up at, we'd try to be in Provo by 9 a.m. when the first one opened. And then we would just hit every single one and then get back at 9 p.m. at night and then do the same thing the next day. And so I know I'd mentioned to you, one of the things we had talked about briefly during the treatment was just that I didn't start school till really late in life and didn't really learn how to read till I was like 13, 14 years old. That was probably one of the biggest reasons, which I was bitter about it for a long time. Like angry at my parents, and the older I got and the more I started to learn about the reasons behind it, the reasons why I didn't go to school. And, I'm still not,
it's odd to me that she would buy and resell books, but you couldn't read.
Yeah.
Books.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is funny because we would try to help her with that business of, we would basically just try to get in the way because we called them dealers, but a bunch of people that did the same thing she did, she'd basically say, try to get in their way so that I can get more books. Wow. I get the best books when like a cart comes out. And it's funny because it's a hard thing to explain to people that haven't been there. It's hard to be like, to get you to get it, but it gets really aggressive, really physical. And like I had full grown adults that would drop on purpose, like a textbook on my head when I was just trying to basically help my mom. But it's one of those things, we just didn't know any different. So we just went to work with her every day. And my older siblings
sounds like a Black Friday 5 a.m. like deal for the 2 TVs that are going to be half off.
Yep, every single day. It was like that. It was like that every single day. Wow. So yeah, it was interesting. But my older siblings, up until me, all started school. I think maybe when they were like 11 or 12, but they were mostly homeschooled. And so before that, they still at least had a semi-decent education. By the time it got to me and my one younger brother, I'm number 6 of 7. Okay. So me and my one younger brother, my mom had started doing that full time. And so we just never went into school and we never really got the basics. I remember, so what we did know was stuff we taught ourselves. So my mom, she promised me, she said that, or she promised all the kids, but she said, if you do this, each of us had like a specific thing we were supposed to do. And she said, if you do this, we'll go to Disneyland. My thing was like learning the alphabet and something else. And so I remember the alphabet was a big thing. So we would just, every day I would.
How old were you when you were learning the alphabet?
Let's see, I was still in the van. So I was probably.
The van?
Oh, sorry, Levan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was still in Levan. So I probably started learning when I was like 7 or 8.
The alphabet, like the ABCs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the sounds that it made. Like I had the little chart thing that I would sit there and go, try to sound out words. But so I learned those, and then everything just kind of went on a stall. Everything just kind of paused when my mom went kind of full time doing what she was doing. And so we just forgot about school. And for years, we would just help her with her book business, just buying and reselling books. And it barely paid the bills for the most part. And then when actually, I don't want to go too fast because in Levan, just to give kind of a backstory of I guess my childhood and how it was different is, I mean, we were definitely really poor, but we had crazy imaginations where we would just go do the dumbest things. I think back now, I'm like, that was just like, what were we doing? But we had like a trailer court full of characters, all kinds of different people that were, some of them crazy. And there's like so many just random stories of adults and other kids that would like, it was like we lived in like the ghetto basically. Like kids that would pull knives on me and my younger brother. And then we had just like, we'd try to keep ourselves entertained. Like, and there was this, so we always wanted a trampoline when we were younger. Like my entire life, we always wanted one. My cousins had one. And so when we went there, it was like the coolest thing in the world. But it's so like crazy to think back to now. But there was a billboard right outside of like the trailer court that I lived in that had fallen over. And all of us would go. So like, or not all of us, but probably 5 of the kids, we'd all head down there and we would jump on a billboard and pretend it was a trampoline. Like for just...
That was your trampoline. That was your version.
And it had like no give to it. It was really just
but it was
trying
exciting.
to find something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And anything that my older siblings would do with us, I thought was like so cool.
Yeah.
So when they'd come jump on a billboard that, you know, had fallen over, that was our trampoline. But yeah, the trailer court was probably where I have the most just crazy like stories that I had at the time, didn't even realize were that insane. And then it was like when I moved from there so I ended up moving to Mapleton when I was I was 9. So I had my 10th birthday right as I moved to Mapleton, Utah.
Okay.
And that was like, it's a rich area. Like huge houses on top of the hill. Everyone had their own pools, tennis courts.
How did you get there? Like, how were you able to afford to get there?
So I'm honestly not sure. I mean, we moved into, the house was not nice. So the house we moved into was what we were told. They said that it was built by a 17-year-old that was like basically just experimenting. His parents were rich and they said, yeah, like you want to build a house, like go ahead. And so that's what I was always told. I don't know how much that's true, but it had enough problems for me to believe it. Nothing worked in it. It flooded all the time. Like sewer backup, it would flood. And we actually had like a protocol for all the kids of what we were supposed to do when it started flooding. So it was like, here's a stack of towels. You're going to line them up here to try to direct the
system
flow.
For all the issues.
Yep, to direct the flow out the door. And but over the years of it, you know, flooding a lot, it still ruined most of her like book collection, what she had, and what she would resell. But so I don't know exactly how they got the money. The house at the time, it wasn't that expensive, and it was just right in the middle of a completely different class of people than I was used to. And so we moved there, and it was crazy.
Everybody knew how to read there, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yes. Everyone knew how to read and much more. And it was funny because we were going to a church, and that's when I always knew that I was like getting further and further behind, but it didn't stress me out because I was like, I'm just working with my mom. I'm helping her out. But it didn't fully stress me out until like I remember kids would start to say stuff to me and kind of tease me and make fun of me even, you know, in church, and be like about just super basic things. Like we didn't know, I knew how to add, like addition, but that was about it. I couldn't really read. And so I would talk to most of the people that were going to make me do it ahead of time, like, hey, explain my situation and please don't make me do this in front of everyone, kind of thing. I can't. But I remember one kid when I was actually in church just kind of went off on me. I don't even think he was trying to be mean. He just was like, you seriously don't know this? And he just like bombarded me with questions. And he's like, you can't add, you know, you can't times, you know, 2 times 2. Like you don't know any of this stuff. And I was just wide-eyed. And
to you, it was somewhat normal. To him, it was very unnormal. Mm-hmm. And so he had a lot of questions.
Yeah.
it's the first time he had experienced anybody of your age
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yep.
And whether he felt bad or was trying to be mean or whatever the motive was, he was probably literally like shocked.
Yeah, just shocked. Exactly. Yep.
Oh, wow.
Which at the time I didn't understand.
But that woke you up a little bit to, okay, wait.
Kind of the urgency. Yeah. So
Wow.
I went actually to my mom after that. And I remember I went up to her and I was 10. No, I was a little older at this point. So I was probably 12 or 13. And I went up to my mom after like this service and I was like, I said, hey, I was like, Mom, I said, I'm dumb. I was like, I'm stupid. I don't know anything. Like, I don't know. I was like, I need to go to school. And at the time, I remember she kind of just said, all right, good luck. Like, she was like, all right, if that's what you want to do, like, good luck. Like, yeah, I'll put you in. And so the next, like, coming year that came around, I went in and, I was a year behind. So I got put in a year behind what everybody else was in my age group. So I was with so that was also weird because the kids I went to church with, I wasn't with any of them in my school classes. And it was, people would always ask me about it and be like, okay, but I started a year behind.
And you're probably tall.
Mm-hmm.
So you seemed like you were really like, even in your own grade, you probably would have seemed older, taller. Now going down, really, the gap seemed larger.
Definitely. Yeah.
And what kind of church was it?
So LDS church.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that's right. I've been tall my whole life. Like I stopped growing probably in my freshman year or something. Like I was already really tall. So, that's right. So I told her that and she said, all right, kind of good luck, go ahead, give it a shot. So I entered in, I believe it was 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade. And I was turning 14. And so probably would have been 8th if I was a year behind. Maybe it was 7th and my younger brother was in 6th, but he's a genius, my younger brother. And I was never like mad cause he's a good guy, but I was just like, how can I, like, it frustrated me that for him, it still came so easily when we both had like no school up until that point. But he went in the year where it was still, you still had like a homeroom. So it was, you had like one teacher for all the different subjects. And I think that was really good for him to still have. And they still went over, like, they had spelling bees and stuff for learning how to spell words, which I didn't. So the year I started, it felt like I was just thrown in, in the middle of nothing.
You were probably committing a lot of your thought and like stress in moments where you could have been committing that energy towards learning how to read. But when you're nervous and you're looking around and people are doing what you're just now starting to learn to do, it takes a minute. You know what I mean? It's like, it's not like you get there and like, you're so focused and okay, I'm going to do this.
Yep.
You're like, your head is talking to you. Like, what are you doing? This is scary. Your fight or flight mechanism, kicks in, and our heads take up a lot of, what we say in our heads take up a lot of room.
Yeah.
Where we should be focused on something. And I'm sure like the onboarding for you was scary.
That's exactly what happened. And that, just like you said, that made it so much harder to actually learn the stuff that I was supposed to be learning, because I felt so stupid that I spent most of my time trying to hide how stupid I felt and trying to hide how, all these things that came up and just such simple things. But every single one of the classes that I went to when I first started school, I mean, most teachers didn't understand. And even when I told them, because I talked to them outside of class and tried to be an adult and be like, hey, listen, they still just couldn't comprehend it. I was like, I don't know how to read yet. Like, I've never, ever taken any math. Like, I have no clue what you're talking about. And I can't remember what it was. Like, we went right into algebra or something.
Wow.
And I had no clue what it was. And my mom actually came and sat in the class the first time I went, which was like the worst thing in the world for me. I had never gone to school, and I was just like, she came and sat in there and was like talking to me and and telling the whole time. And I was just so embarrassed, but I had, but exactly. So what I ended up doing, and this what I ended up doing was like, I didn't want to look stupid, and I would rather look like a rebel and look like a problem kid or whatever than look stupid. So I went like the opposite direction. I was like, okay, instead of like buckling down and learning, I'm going to put this mask on. That's like, I don't care about anything, and I don't care about, and it's funny because years later I was like, holy cow, there's probably so many kids that did the exact same thing I did that
100%.
that teachers don't see it. They just sort of just,
You'd rather them focus on this because you felt like if they focused on this, that was too much for your psyche, too embarrassing. I mean, I was the same student in school, summer school every year. They passed me through just because.
Just to not see you again.
Yeah. They're like, we can't just keep her another year. She's already a year behind. But you can get attention by being the rebel or, and in some sense that is kind of cool, especially if you're sticking up for somebody or,
Yeah, that's true. It worked for me in a lot of ways. Like it's how I developed like a lot of my personality, how I would joke with people and just be silly. But I feel bad for my teachers. Like to this day, I'm just like, I feel so bad for most of them because I was so disrespectful and just like, I would say things just in my mind. I was like, if I can embarrass them enough, they won't call on me again. And it usually worked. And I'd be like, so I remember teachers would be like, there's this one time I was in, it was math. I remember my teacher, and she was super sweet. I can't remember her name, but I remember, I was trying to think of it the other day because she was a really sweet person. And they used to give you this period of time where they're like, okay, everybody work on this yourself. And then I'm going to call on somebody to show their work on the board. And like, so they give you like 5 minutes to work out a certain problem. And I had no clue. So I didn't even start. I just sat there. And then when it was time, and she knew that, she saw me, and when it was time to do it, she kind of out of spite was like, Trevor, like, you're going to come do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I was like, I don't know it. And she's like, you're going to do it. And she wouldn't stop. So I stood up and I walked to the front of the room. And I remember the time, like, inside, I'm freaking out, but on the outside, I was just like, I don't care about any of this stuff. Like, I grabbed the marker and I just started drawing random stuff on the board. And she starts kind of like raising her voice, and she's like, Trevor, she's like, sit down. I'm like, hold on, I'm not done. I'm just like going on and just like clowning. Everyone's laughing, and I was just like, took it absolutely to the most extreme I possibly could. And finally, I'm like, all right, she like, calm down. I'll go sit down. I go sit down, and she never called on me ever again. And I was like, all right, like. And so things like that just became part of my personality, where I would be so disruptive and so like disrespectful. But the thing is I still had inside this like desire to learn that was like, I didn't want to feel stupid. I wanted so bad to get out that I would go home and I would just do whatever I could to try to learn the simplest homework assignments that would take most kids 10 minutes. I'd spend like 2 hours on and just try to understand it, but I just couldn't like comprehend. And to this day, I still have so many things that are frustrating because I don't understand them. And I think that it is from missing out on a lot of just basic learning. And the fact that I was spending, my high school years from 13 to, 18 when I graduated, the fact that I was spending that trying to learn how to like read properly. And when I did start getting called on in high school, I remember like I would literally just sit there and sound out every word when I'm reading, and kids would laugh. And they would, like poke fun under their breaths while I was reading. And the teachers would be like, hey, stop that. But it doesn't help. Like, they're just still like, you hear everything and you know what's going on. But
I was the same way, just so you know. I couldn't read very well. And when we'd go around the class and everybody read a chapter, and I would try and figure out which chapter was going to be mine, figure it out, because I would need to read it to make sure I knew the words. And even then it was difficult. And, I didn't always get the chapter right. And I was very nervous. And everybody knew that I was, struggling. And so for you, even if you had started at a young age, because I started school, in kindergarten, but I still had a hard time with school. And it sounds like if you and your brother would have started school, like, sometimes learning is a little more challenging for others, but then you also have to add that layer of you're self-conscious. You can't, in school, You're trying to do everything to get kids to pay attention to and laugh at you because they think you're being like, you know, a little bit of a rebel and not minding the teacher. I just, hard. I felt like I had it hard, and I cannot imagine being at that age. Like, I never made it past business math. You know, the second language for me was art. They made an exception. Like, you know how you have to have like a second language in high school. Like, they made a lot of exceptions for me to graduate. And I never graduated until my daughter was the year my daughter graduated high school.
Wow.
I decided to go back because I knew I could.
Mm-hmm. I think it's funny because I think like that's one of the reasons why it was so easy to talk to when we first met, is that we can relate on stuff like that. It's hard to understand it unless you've been through it. And even when people say like, oh yeah, I totally get that, or yeah, that must have been hard, like unless you've actually been through that kind of thing, you can't understand it really. So but yeah, it was super tough.
But you graduated on time. I mean, like with your class that you'd started with, and
yes. So I had a couple of really amazing teachers. One of them I remember Mr. Black. I remember him, but like from right off the bat, he could tell. And I remember him being like I remember him kind of looking at me and assessing whether like how much of it was real, how much of it, like, I don't know how he even knew, but from pretty much the first day of me, it was TLC was what he taught was at the time was technology, life and careers. It's a class of like kind of bunched together. And we went and we sat down at the computers. I had never used one before. And I also didn't know how to spell. So it was like a double. And he goes, all right, everybody go ahead and turn on your computers and go to this website. And I just sat there and I like looked at him and he's like, he comes up to me in the class and he's like, Trevor, like, go ahead, go to this website. And I was like, I don't know how. And at first he thought, he was like, okay, you probably just don't know how to turn the computer on. So he like turns it on for me and he's like, all right, okay, go to the website. Comes back like 10 minutes later and he's like, why aren't you there? And I was like, I don't know how. And so he's like, just type in this, and like writes down what I'm supposed to type. And I didn't know where to type it. I didn't know where to click. I didn't know how to pull up, Google. I didn't know anything. And so but anyway, I just remember like, he was one of my, like I have a few people in my life growing up that were just like, I'm super grateful for, that were like my heroes. And he's one of them where I never, told him. I was always like, I should go back and talk to him. But right off the bat, he was kind of like, okay. And he got it. And he stopped and he started doing everything like quietly, not in front of everybody. He'd be like, okay. And instead of starting the class, he'd have something already turned on for me, or have the website up on the computer and be like, hey, Trevor, you're on this one. Like, you're on this computer. And I had a few people like that I was just super grateful for.
That like those kind of things, those kind of people, like just, they are the people you needed in your life. Mm-hmm. They helped you through really difficult times. And I'm sure there was a lot of them, difficult times that is. And for him to, and I'm sure he got a lot out of it as well, knowing that he was helping you and you were wanting to learn. It wasn't that you didn't want to learn. He could see that you wanted to. Obviously, he was working with you. And it was probably a growing opportunity for him as well. This is what teachers should love and want to be doing. And, not all teachers are alike. And I'm just saying I'm sure if he heard from you, I'm sure he would appreciate it.
Yeah. I wonder a lot of times, I actually wonder that. I'm like, if he even realizes, if I were to talk to him, if he would even remember and be like, because to him, I don't feel like it was that big of a deal. I think he just was that was just what he did. That was the kind of person that he was. And so I often wonder that if he knows, and which is why I want to talk to him, be like, to let him know kind of the impact that he had on someone who was literally just living in, a shell behind a mask 24/7, pretending, and with him, I was real when we talked. I didn't have to be like that. So, at some point I'm always telling myself that I'm going to go back and let him know, the people in my life. Cause I've had many more since then that helped like that, not just in school, but outside, like people like heroes in my in my community that would secretly do stuff to help because my mom didn't really allow help.
Just a pride thing, like, you know, kind of didn't.
Yeah. So a lot of it was pride. I think most of it was pride. Some of it was religious reasons. I think that, I used to say she kind of had her own religion. Like, so technically we were Mormon, but I would always like it didn't, she had all of her own rules and all of like a lot of things that weren't necessarily even part of that religion, but that we were held to. And so, yeah, but I think a big part of it was pride. And growing up just dirt poor, people would see and they would notice. Not a lot of people would notice, but the ones that did and tried to help, this is a rich like area that we were in. And like most of my friends had tennis courts or swimming pools and just things that for me, I couldn't even imagine. And so,
you just wanted a trampoline.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, my whole life I've wanted a trampoline, which we never got. I'm still this day. I'm like, I'm going to get a trampoline someday just for myself. I'm gonna
one of those in-ground ones.
Yeah.
I've seen them in-ground and I'm all, that is so cool.
So you don't hurt yourself. Yeah. Exactly. You just want that trampoline. I'm going to go out and buy one tomorrow and you'll just see me
just wait till you have kids. It'll be like this whole,
yeah.
Like your kids will be like, Dad loves this.
Right? What is wrong with, but they won't even realize though what they have. I'll be like, you guys don't understand what a big moment this is to get a trampoline. They're like, everyone has one. But yeah, so some of these people would see us doing weird things. Like as children, I would shovel the driveway like it would snow. And we would either have no shoes or like a pair of sandals, or if you did have a pair of shoes, you wanted to save it and not ruin it and not get it wet. And I would shovel the driveway with bare feet.
Wow.
In the snow. And I'd be out there for like, an hour and a half, just bare feet in the snow. And in my head, it wasn't a huge deal because your feet would stop feeling after the first, certain amount of time. And I would always, because we were told, you're tough. We'd be like, oh, I'm tough. Like I'd always be like, it's okay, I'm tough. It's just, it's what I do. And we would do these just crazy things. We would purposely run across like bullhead fields and stuff with bare feet to be like, make ourselves feel tough. And so I had a couple of neighbors. One of them that.
What's a bullfield? First off, I don't know.
Or sorry, like what are they called? The bullheads, the type of pricklies. I don't know. The ones that we call them bullheads. I don't know. It's got like a head, but it's got the two big thorns on it.
Okay, so stickers, fields with
so
stickers.
Like the big ones, yeah. Like not just the little ones, like the ones that get stuck up in there.
Oh wow.
So we would do just crazy stuff like that for my whole childhood, and we'd pump each other up, the other kids, and be like, "Oh no, this is make it feel like it feels normal." Anyway, so one of the people in the like community in the ward that we were at saw me shoveling with bare feet, and one day he asked me to go help him with some stuff in his house to like work for him, which my mom was more than happy to do. She would send us everywhere to work as long as there's somebody else, and we weren't allowed to accept money or any sort of payment, like
wow.
No, like nothing. And at the time, she would say it's because it's service. And like, you're just supposed to serve. And like, that's basically the way, the way to salvation. And, but what it taught me, and I didn't realize till years later, is that all that it did was make me feel like if I had no value. Cause it was like, you do everything for free. You never accept anything. And I have stories like from, even just recently when I started to realize that and finally started accepting things from people when I did good work. But I mean,
it felt a little wrong. It felt like you didn't deserve it. Or maybe if somebody else that wasn't told that, let's just say the payment was $100 and that person would take that payment and know that like, I earned this, it's owed to me. I should even get more. And you're like, wow.
Yep.
Like I'm going to take this $100 and it feels great and I need it and you appreciate it. But there's something in you that's saying like, it just feels wrong.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I didn't even realize that was something in me until a few years ago. Like I would not accept payment for things that I should have, or even tips. So I did a massage, and it was interesting.
Wait, how old are you now?
I'm 32.
Okay.
I think I just turned 32. Yeah. So when I was in massage school, just finishing, I was going more into like, I like to focus more on like rehab or like help PT kind of stuff, where I'd help people that had injuries and whatnot. But I remember I gave a massage to someone while I was still in school. And when I finished, he goes, all right, well, here's your tip. And he handed me $100 bill. And I was like, no, I can't accept that. I can't accept that. And I had been doing this my whole life up until this point. So I was probably 27. Yeah, I was probably 27, around there. And I had to this point still not accepted anything, even if it was something that I was worth, even if it was, me doing good work. I'd be like, no, I can't accept that. I tried to do everything for free just based on service. And I remember, so he handed it to me. I told him, nope, I can't accept this, and he was confused. And he has more money. And he looked at me and he's like, Trevor, he's like, I'm confused. Like, explain to me what's going on here. And I was like, oh no, I just can't accept that. And he goes, are you worth it? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, have you put in the hours in your schooling? And I'm like, yes, I've done, hundreds of additional hours on top of what anybody else in the whole school had done. And so I'm like, yeah. And he goes, so if you're worth it, you've put in all the extra work and you're the best. He's like, are you the best? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, so like, explain to me again why you can't accept this. And I sat there and all of a sudden, and it's crazy because it was this wall. Like, I hadn't even thought about my entire life as an adult. Like, I had gotten married by this point, I thought about it and I was like, I have no idea. Like, what's going on inside my mind? And so I accepted it and I went home, and I've since talked to him and thanked him, for that, like, basically
the talk,
opening up my mind. But I went straight home and I called both my brothers and I was like, has this happened to you guys? Are you going through the same thing? And all of us have gone through it, where we just went our whole lives basically thinking that we didn't deserve anything. Like, we didn't deserve anything that we were offered. It was like, nope, we're just basically servants, like slaves. It was just, nope, we go work. Cause we had an insane work ethic. All of us do. I think just coming from somewhere where you don't have a fallback, when you grow up and you don't have a fallback, you can't, if you fail, you fail. Like, it's over. Mm-hmm. There's no,
the floor is coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
no family members that were rich that could help us out. There's no other people we could stay with.
Nobody's going to save you.
Yeah. There was literally, and it's funny because even that saying, I hear so many people say, and in my mind, I'm like, I don't think half the people actually have ever experienced something like that or understand it. Like, when you literally have no one and nothing.
It's survival mode. Mm-hmm. And it's the mode you live in 24 hours a day, yep. Every single day.
Yep. Yeah. So, anyway, that was.
What did your brothers say about that, though? About the tips? Had they,
we were all just like shocked.
Accepted tips? Yeah. Cause I know you have other family, like your brother's also a physical therapist, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. My brother's a physical therapist, and they don't really have like tips in physical therapy. So mm-hmm. I don't think he had dealt with that specifically, but we had, since then we've talked about it a lot, but we had a bunch of open conversations. Just basically, I remember telling them, guys, we have to better this. I was like, if we want to be successful in life, this is one of the big things that are holding us back. And like, I think they had also kind of come to realize it on their own terms, or on their own as well. But I just wanted to like point it out and see if I was crazy or if I was the only one doing it. But I think it was, at least for me, just a huge moment realizing it and being like, if I want to be successful, I have to be willing to accept what I'm worth.
Yeah. And you want to know something? Knowing your value and your worth is important. And a lot of people think they're more worthy or valuable than they are, to be honest. Uh-huh. And then there's the people that, when you do know your worth and your value and you're a hard worker, I mean, it all just lines out. But you're a hard worker and you don't know And maybe you do know your worth and your value, but you also know that it's free. It's part of service. And do you have kids?
Nope.
And so your wife is like, and I know she probably loves you, and you guys are.
So
are you?
So we were actually divorced. Yeah.
Okay.
So it's been a few years, but
either way, when
Yeah.
you have a family, you need to support them, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And people want to pay you what you're worth, and that's so great that man, whoever he was, took the time. He probably wanted to understand himself.
Yeah.
But in turn, it educated you.
Mm-hmm.
And then you started asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Isn't it crazy what we don't know until it happens? And
Yep.
then we're like, wait, is this normal?
Mm-hmm. And I've had so many, exactly like that. So many small breakthroughs. And that was one of the things that opened my mind up to being able to accept other ways of thinking and other breakthroughs. I mean, like, hold on a second, let me reevaluate most of these things that I've grown up just accepting as facts and accepting as, just listening to, basing my value off of what someone told me it was. But yeah, and so I jumped forward there to explain that, but back to this neighbor, right, that had seen me over plowing,
shoveling snow
with, yep. So
barefooted.
Yep. He invites me up to his house. He's like, hey, I have some work I need done. And of course, my mom's more than happy to send me. And we show up. I don't even remember what it was. I helped him clean or something, and he didn't need it. He's multimillionaire, probably billionaire, and biggest house in the whole town. And but when I was leaving, he goes, hey, he's like, so I have some stuff for you. And he gave me like a shoe basket or a laundry basket, and it had like just a bunch of shoes in it. And he's like, give these to your siblings, give these to your brother, and he knew my mom at that point. And he knew that she wouldn't accept it, which I feel like at some point I have to talk about that, because I've come to realize, like, now where I'm at, I'm like, okay, looking at her situation, I think she did the best she could. She just didn't know better.
Of course.
In a lot of situations. She also, was, I guess, dealt a bad hand or whatever. But so just to be clear, I'm not like bagging on her, but
yeah, I'm sure she'd appreciate that, because I could have said that in my podcast and probably caused myself a lot of pain and anguish, because our parents do the best they can.
Mm-hmm.
They don't grow up going, I'm going to be this parent that teaches my kid that he or she's not worth anything, and that, like, they're better off without clothes and shoes. I mean, it's what she learned.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody taught her that. And I'm sure she did better than where she was taught, because we all do, right?
Yeah. And she was, and I think in a lot of cases, and especially in her case, she was still a kid when she started having kids. And so she was kind of grabbing onto whatever she could to give structure. Even if I didn't agree with most of the stuff that she did hook on to, but she was, doing her best with what she was given. So, but anyway.
Did she let you guys keep the shoes?
No, no, she didn't.
She did not?
No. So I snuck the shoes back into the house, and I wore them for a little while. One of them, and they weren't even nice shoes. Like, that's the funny thing. They were like the hand-me-downs from his kids that he had. They didn't fit me at all. Like, the one I was wearing was like 2 sizes too big. But I remember actually one of them looked too new. So I actually took, didn't work at all. So but I took shoe polish. It was a white shoe. And I took like brown shoe polish that was there, and I just like tried to scuff it up and make it look as dirty as I could and use as I could, so that it wouldn't, look like it was a new shoe.
So that she wouldn't be alarmed by it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can have him a few more extra days
Yep.
before she figured it out.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, but we did return. I had to return the shoes. But it was he's one of those people. I have probably like 4 or 5 people in my life that I'll just like never forget, that at the time, like, it felt like if nobody in the world could see who you were, see what you were going through. And so to see someone that saw you, it was crazy. Like, that, I was like, I had no idea you even noticed me, and in the ward that we were at, like in the community, like everyone saw the stuff we were doing, but there was only very, very few people. that tried to do anything about it. And so anyway, he's one of those people I'm just like, you know, one of the people that I always think of as one of like my childhood heroes that I need to still go back and talk to or do something for. But
I think it's just in your nature to want to go back and do something for that person. But I think, honestly, just sending a note of thanks would be something that he would appreciate more than you doing something for him. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I don't think that's necessary. And I do think that that's still part of your thinking, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how, like, I remember you telling me that, you know, you've gone through counseling and you've gone through some things to help you like reorganize the thinking. And then for 7 years, I went through counseling every single week. And I had to clear the tapes, re-record, you know, my whole thinking had to change. And it like changed my life. But that, like, thinking that you need to go back and do something to that person, probably just saying, hey, it made a difference and you're still on my mind. And that's how much of an impact it had for me, is probably a huge gift. That's doing something, right? Just saying it.
Right.
It's like, wow.
That's true. It's not like I could give him anything anyways to, like I said, he was, you know, it felt like they had everything.
And when they do
needed,
have everything,
yeah.
These are the gifts that they love more. And I'm only just learning this myself. Like, sometimes words are so much more valuable than anything you could do, especially for people that have, you know, are blessed enough to have a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Oh, so, okay, continue.
Let's see so, I mean, I guess just back to school, going to school. You had asked like if I still graduated and everything. I did graduate. I put in a lot of extra hours. I actually graduated with high honors because I just did a lot of time. And I think a lot of teachers also were willing to work with me when they saw how hard I was willing to work. So I definitely wasn't,
that's awesome.
I guess at the time I wasn't like, oh, I'm smart, I'm a genius. Like, I still took the basic classes I could and just studied super hard and did what I could. But all throughout this time of going to school and just working super hard was like, obviously the desire to like actually make friends and hang out with people. And we didn't really have any social interaction at all. Our house was, it was actually known as like everybody wondered what it looked like inside. Everyone would talk about it in school. They're like, oh, have you been to, has anyone been inside the Maury house? Like, we had just never brought anybody inside. And to this day, I actually had one of my friends reach out to me recently. His name's Nate, but he's like, I'm still honored to be one of the only people that actually made it inside like the Maury house. Out of any of my friends anyways. Like, we would still have, older church members and whatnot that would come in to visit, but we never hung out with anybody. And so I remember it was crazy when I was in high school. Part of the way that I dealt with a lot of the trauma that I had received growing up was just by joking, part of like that mask thing. But I would so freely say the things that happened to me, even if they were very, very like messed up, and people would laugh because they couldn't tell if I was serious or not.
They thought you were being sarcastic.
Yeah, all the time. And I'd say things like just super like personal stuff about my parents, or something that was, I'll probably not share today, but just super stuff to me that was messed up. And I just like say it. I just throw it out there and people would laugh and be like, oh, like he's crazy. And then like a few of them would, kind of give you the look like, well, like where'd that come from? And there wasn't really a lot of my friends that ever knew. And it was like when we left school, all my interactions were in school. But I would say it was funny. We had this thing, and we called it dumpster diving, which I thought was normal until I was older. So when we'd get our food from dumpsters.
Yeah.
And like, that was just what we did. And I'm not talking, I remember when I got into college, there was like this thing that was kind of the cool thing, was like, oh yeah, let's go to Little Caesars and wait behind at nighttime when they throw away all their pizzas. And it was like a cool thing to do. But I was like, nah, I know it is something different. Like this was how we lived. So we would go on these huge drives, like I mentioned earlier, so we drive all the way up to Salt Lake and all the way back down. We typically wouldn't eat for most of the day. And this was something I was just talking to my brother about. We're like, how did we do that as kids? And how did none of us ever complain? And how did it was
time restricted eating or at its best, but it wasn't planned.
Yeah. It was like, which developed for me an eating disorder that now I just always for the rest of my life will eat anything and everything unless I stop myself.
Cause you never had it before.
Yeah.
I went through that period too. And it was like, it'd be there. How could I not? I can't even go on a cruise because if I go on a cruise, I'll gain 10 pounds in 5 days because it's all there and it won't be afterwards.
Exactly.
Is
like
how
I don't
your
want to
mind
waste
thinks.
this. It's not going to be,
Yeah.
Someone brings a cake into work. Someone brings, I'm like, well, I got it's there. Like I'm not going to get this later. And I still have that same mindset. It's like I got to shove down as much as I can or pocket some of it. And it's like when we'd go to like events with other, just like, church events, and they'd have treats there, candy or food, we would eat as much as we could. Also because you don't know exactly when your next meal is going to be. And so it definitely established a very unhealthy eating pattern. And me now I'm big into fitness and I like to work out and, for the most part, eat healthy. But it's been insanely hard having that because it's even just recently that I'm breaking that, being like, hold on a second, just because it's there, I don't have to eat it. Like I can make that myself later, or I can buy that later.
Yeah, but it's hard. Once something is in your brain, it takes they say however long it's been in your brain, it takes at least half that. So let's say it's in your brain for 20 years. For 10 years, you will have to train your brain to not think that way. And you have to work on it. Otherwise, it'll just stay.
Exactly. Yep. That's 10 years makes sense. I didn't know that, but that makes sense.
Just half of however long. So if you had an addiction for 7 years, it's going to be 3.5 years that you're, having to reprogram the tapes in your head.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Cause it's only once you're actually aware of it. It's crazy. Cause I'm still at this point in my life, I'm like, have I not spent enough time working through things? Why are there still more things still popping up that I'm realizing? But I mean, that's going to be, forever.
It is true. Whatever you tell yourself, I've gone, and not to cut off your story, but one of my biggest ones was I would tell myself I was fat, and I was like 10, 12 pounds skinnier or lighter than I am now. And for years I felt fat and I'd say it all the time. And it's only the last few years that and I worked on it for a long time, but the last few years I've corrected that behavior and those, thoughts in my head. And I finally feel like, wow, I spent a lot of time talking to myself so negatively, right? And I can see now it was just unhealthy and not really warranted.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I get it.
And real quick, with that, listening to your story, I guess just the first half of your story, or even a part of it, and understanding more about you was it's crazy. It's eye-opening because for me, I guess I spent a lot of my life being bitter and being well, I didn't grow up in the right circumstances. And if I had these, other opportunities that other kids had, I'd be somewhere completely different, which to an extent I think is true. But listening to your story and where you came from and where you're at now is just it's amazing. It's eye-opening, and it gives me more hope too for how I can continue to progress. But
well, the thing is that people that just grow up in a normal household that don't have, serious challenges, and I'm happy for those people, right? I know a lot of those people, but they don't stop to think about, or they don't question their thought process, or they're not getting to a position where they're okay, wait, what is normal? What is right? And you're going to constantly for the rest of your life work on you, where they're just no, I'm doing this, and what they're doing is honorable, but they haven't had to question it. And so you're questioning it, and you're constantly trying to find that next level of greatness for you, right? And I know, so it'll start being exponential soon, because I didn't even start until I was 30. Like, really start looking at other people's lives going, whoa. Like, I did when I was young, but then it just started having like huge differences. And then you just get so excited about that next big goal that's going to change your life. And it could be just the way you talk to yourself, or, the smallest things could have such a huge impact in your life. So when I was, the first time I met you, and you had said, you had wanted to, you could right now very easily open your own, physical therapy, massage place, or do your own thing on the, sometimes they show up and they, what is it? Like a mobile.
Yeah. Yeah. Massage.
But you had said, like, there's this one aspect of it that I, would be a hurdle, and that'd be like the bookkeeping and the taking. And I'm like, he has everything he needs to do this. He just needs to know it. And you're getting there. Like, you have everything it takes to do whatever it is you want to do. I'm not going to say become the president. I'm not going to get all crazy, but you have it within you, and you're going to start discovering that. And I remember when I was like, I don't know if I could do that. I run my own business, and now I'm like 7 years into it, second business. But I remember doubting, like, there's just so much to it that I don't know about. I know, fast forward 5 whatever years, you're going to probably own the building that has multiple businesses, and one of them just happens to be physical therapy. I don't know. I just see it. Yeah. You don't yet.
So I appreciate that. I am really happy with what I've done in massage. So that's what I was working in a PT office, but my brother's the physical therapist. But I, as far as massage goes, I've done personal training too. And, I've been in sales, but I just wanted to do something where I could help people. But as far as what I've done with that, I am really happy with it. I do currently do massages here in St. George, but just 1 day a week. So I travel.
You should be happy with it. I'm glad you're happy with it. Don't let me. I wasn't trying to discount that at all. I know. Because you're amazing. Like, I don't even get massages because I don't even feel like they're worth it. That massage, I told Heath, I was like, oh my goodness, like, it was life changing. And, like, my body neted it, and I didn't really realize it. Yeah. So, no, you're great at what you do.
I love that. Yeah, that's what I focus on. I like to actually help people experience, like, change and be able to, go home and sleep again if they've been in pain for a long time. And I feel like anybody can give, like, just a relaxing massage. But that is kind of what I focus on. So that makes me really happy to kind of get that feedback. And then, what was it we were just
saying? You do have work here in St. George 1 day a week.
And then I travel and work a few hours away for a couple days doing massage out there. But I am super happy with it. Like, I put in a lot of extra hours and a lot of extra like hands-on hours, a lot of extra hours studying and just learning, about anatomy and kinesiology and how, like, the body works, so that I can actually help people that have specific issues. So I'm very happy with it, but I agree. Like, I'm kind of at a crossroads where I'm like, it's time to take, the next step. And, whether that is just opening my own place somewhere, or, just buckling down where I'm currently working at. But I guess, just to be clear, I am happy with what I've done because I do put in the work. But just like you said, that thing in the back of my mind that's still there from when I was a kid, that's like, yeah, but you can't do the paperwork, like all the behind the scenes stuff, the licensing, or the running a business type thing. Which I think you had actually mentioned, like, you can always hire somebody else to do that stuff. Like, just if you're good enough at what you do.
You can get a shared office. I already talked to my doctor.
Yeah.
Dr. AJ here in town. He's great. And and he has, the space, and he has a front office person. And I'm like, you just need to bring in my guy, Trevor. He's like, well, yeah, I've been thinking about that. He's like, I really would consider that. So, and I know there's people out there, like a shared office space, you share the person up front. You've got this. Whatever it is you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
Just don't hesitate. Don't let your mind tell you one thing, because wake up every day and do something scary and you'll be like, and I did it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. That's another one of those things that I've spent years trying to break and make myself uncomfortable just jumping into situations like that, because forever I wouldn't even touch paperwork. And like I said, I am working out of an office, right? Or I have a shared space kind of like that right now. And I probably would have never done that before. I'd be like, well, what if I can't get, clientele, or so I always try to do things to make myself uncomfortable. And in that aspect, I'm happy with just the progress I've seen in the past few years, for sure.
It's awesome.
So,
yeah. I was going to say, there was something on that I was just going to touch on after you were saying that, and I lost it. But yeah, I know where you're currently at, and it's probably the highest end resort I've ever been to in my life. It's not far from here, and the clientele that you've had there, I'm sure, are amongst the rich and famous. And you had mentioned a couple people to me that I knew, like people that I love podcasts. I've been like educating myself on YouTube for, the last 7 or so years. I was just
podcaster.
I feel like you can learn anything on YouTube.
I love it.
And so you had mentioned somebody that you had given a massage to, and I'm like, what are their reactions to the service that they get when they're done? Like, are they genuinely like, wow, that was...
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, and to be clear, so this individual, after the treatment, actually, he asked to exchange contact info with me. It was like, which I was surprised by, because I work on a lot of people that are some of the most famous people in the world. And so, and he was super cool about it. And was just like, no, I'm not, like, I'm down to earth just like you. Like, and he actually asked me for my number. And anyway, super cool guy. But as far as like the people that come for that kind of work, it's pretty much always the same, which is one of the reasons, like, it's a different type of massage than I think what a lot of people are expecting, or what they even have come to know what massage is. In the industry, there's a lot of like female requests where it's always like, oh, I'm going to request a female therapist because they feel more comfortable, which I understand. Like, I get it, especially growing up the way I grew up. I understand the hesitancy to be like, oh, I don't want, a male therapist. But I think that that understanding, or I think that like way of thinking, is people that don't truly understand what massage is yet. Because you wouldn't go to your doctor and be like, no, I just want it to be a woman that touches, that does the physical or whatever. Like, so in massage, it's the same way. Like, whenever even if I have people that are hesitant and they're like, and they say like, oh, I thought it was going to be a female or something, I'll be like, hey, no worries. Like, and as long as they're comfortable. But afterwards, they always come out saying the same thing. They're like, I had no idea what massage was until after this. Yeah. Like, this is the first time I can move my arm like this. This is the first time I can, like, I didn't understand that there was such like instant results that you can receive from getting a massage, because they've just had people kind of brush over them with the Swedish massage or like a feel good massage. Even a deep tissue massage, anything. I've only had a handful, probably 10 or under. Every time I do it, I'm like, this is just a waste of money. I honestly did not see the value in a massage until the last one I had, which was by you. And I'm like, wow, my body is thanking me. And I didn't even realize. And you just had known, like, you're like, okay, like, I'm going to bend your leg like this. And can you see that, just the certain spots that were tight. And you had recommended a tool that I bought, and I got that tool in the mail. I'm like, this thing is weird. It's shaped like an S with all these little, and I started using it. And now when I don't have it, I'm looking for like a tennis ball or the edge of a couch that I can like put that pressure on, because it helps. Yeah. And so, I think that it is quite different. For sure. I think, and that's funny because you mentioned, you're like, even when I receive, like, even if it's a deep tissue, it still is, I think there's just a general like understanding that even if like amongst therapists, it's like, even if they say deep tissue, I don't want to like risk going too deep or whatever. They don't maybe even understand the anatomy well enough to do super deep work. Not even, it doesn't even have to be super deep. Like I pride myself in being able to do how much it needs. I'm not just going to like completely beat you up, but I think that a lot of people just misunderstand what it is. So they think that even if you say a deep tissue, they're like, I'm just going to do Swedish, but just a little bit more pressure. They're not actually looking for specific areas that need to be worked on, or issues, or even, you know, which I guess I understand that being like in a resort where people just want to go relax. But there's so many people that come in that have specific issues that, you know.
Yeah, and you identify those. I knew I had issues. I wasn't even going to go down the list. You're like, is there any particular area? I'm like, nah, you know, I'm not,
like,
let's not go there. You know, what's this guy going to do? But you do know the anatomy. That was the part that like, I'm like, wait, he's a different, like he has a lot more training in this in the other areas. Like he's not just a certified massage therapist, right? Yeah. You've got some extensive training, and then the anatomy part, I was like, okay, yeah, okay, that was great.
Okay, yeah.
I'm glad you're in St. George one day a week.
Yeah, I know. I'll probably start picking up some more days here and get a more, like a more permanent schedule where I'm doing at least like 3 or 4, hopefully soon.
Okay. So. Well, where can people find you in St. George or otherwise online?
So right now, I mean, I would just say socials, my socials. I don't have like a website right now up, but Guru Massage is the name of it. It's Guru, and then it's underscore, I think, massage. Or my my fitness account, which I use for kind of everything, is tasher.fit, TASHER.fit. But
is that like on the World Wide Web? Or
sorry, that's Instagram.
Instagram?
Sorry,
okay.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah, I've checked out your Instagram. I'm like, whoa, that guy is fit. You know, when you're getting a massage, you're not seeing all that. And I'm like, wow, he really is into fitness.
It's just lighting and stuff. You know.
Oh, come on.
That's what it's mostly lighting. Like at the show, they make sure the lighting's perfect. You get like a tan and everything. But no, I love fitness. I never planned on competing or anything. I did do one show. But it's like goes hand in hand with massage, I think. Like I'm always telling everyone that comes in with these issues, recommending specific workouts that they do that can help. But the problem is most people don't actually want to put in, they're like, fix me. They come in and just go fix me. But I appreciate it though. That's
so Guru Massage. And then your Instagram is
tasher.fit, which is, it's interesting. So it's T for Trevor. Asher's my middle name. So tasher.fit. I originally created it because I didn't want my family to find it or anybody that I knew. I just wanted to just start a fitness account. I didn't want anybody to really see me with my shirt off or whatever. I was like embarrassed. And so I was trying to get like a sponsor or something. So I still wanted to do a fitness account, but I didn't want anyone to know who I was. And that just kind of became my regular account now that I use. So my sister found it and then told everybody, and I was like, it's too late. Like, I don't even know how she did it, but she found it. I know you have a fitness account, and she sent it to the rest of the family. So anyways, yeah, so that one would be.
And they all love you. We're like self-conscious sometimes because we're so nervous of what people are going to think, and us having the nerve to do something so bold as to be strong, you know what I mean? And to put it out there and through the world. And you're like, I want other people to see it, but not people I know to see it. It's crazy, you know, and you should be proud of everything you've accomplished. Honestly, people would love to be fit. They can't put in the time, the effort. Like they just don't have, you know, they have to, that's work. And so obviously, you know, you work really hard, and that's something that your upbringing definitely instilled in you. Whether we like it or not, we are hard workers. The first 25, 30 years of our lives were not so easy, but the rest, we're going to kill it. Yeah.
That's funny. That's something I talked to my brothers about. I was like, if nothing else, the way we were raised, like instilled that work ethic in us, because none of us are going to fail because we couldn't fail. Yeah. You know,
people see that in you, whether you like even talk about it or not. Like, it's just something people can tell. And when people can tell that, they want to invest in those people. That's the $100 tip you got. He wanted you to have that because you made him feel, like that massage for him was worth it. And so I think there's a lot of people out there that are like, you know what? He would be great. I have a spot for him right now. People listening right now are probably thinking that would be my guy. If I could make him my guy for all of my needs, my physical therapy, whatever, they would hire you like that. And you don't even have to hardly talk about it, and you can sense people like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. I agree. And like, I can see the same thing in you, like from when I met you, it's obvious. And that's one of the reasons why I just felt like comfortable opening up, is like the second we started talking, then, you understood me instead of like, it's funny. There's so many people that say that they understand, but you can tell, just like you can tell, you can sense it instantly. And I think that still goes back to not having a fallback. When I was like back to like high school, I remember people talking about how hard they worked, and they'd say something like they'd show up in a brand new car or just something crazy. And we're over here, driving we called it the bomb, but it was this car that made really loud noises and had holes in the floor, and the roof, you had to hold it up like this to be able to drive because it stooped or went down so low. But they'd be telling me that they'd show up in a brand new Jeep or something, and they'd be like, yeah, but I earned it. And I was like, well, how did you earn that? They're like, well, I had to get A's for this semester or whatever. And I was in this, and in their mind, it was like, no, I earned it. Like, I worked hard for this. And I was like, if I don't get A's, then I'm going to be in trouble. Like, it's like,
I won't eat.
It's a different, it's like it's a very different thought process. And that was one of the things that I grew up, I tried to explain it to everybody. I was like, no, you don't get it. Like, it bugged me. I was like, no, you don't understand. They're like, no, I get it. I have to work hard too. Like, I get it. And for a long time, I wanted to let them know that no, they didn't get it. I was like, no, you don't. I was like,
but they'll never really get that. They could see it and understand it, but the feeling and emotion and like that isn't going to be there. Yeah. And similarly, like, I had depression for many years, like 15-ish, like before I could figure out how to get a handle on it. And I would stay in bed for a week. Like, for no apparent reason, it's like I was starting to do well, but I'd still have these bouts of depression. If you don't have depression, you don't know what that feels like. You just don't know what down feels like. You don't want to get out of bed. And yet, like, it could be somebody saying, I'm going to take you to Disneyland today. And there's no snapping out of it. It's like a chemical imbalance. Yeah. And I always felt the same way. Like, if you don't know, and then I would hear people talking about other people, putting them down. And I'm like, you just don't know. If you don't know, if you're not in their shoes, you do not know what's going on. Yeah. And I think that's what, like, because I have been through some things, empathy is there. Whether it was the same things or not, I've been through things where all I was doing was surviving the first 25 years of my life every day. I didn't know if, the lights would stay on again, and I went many times without having electricity. And boy, the cockroaches come out when there's no electricity. I don't know if you've noticed. But yeah, and food and whatever. And so, yeah, you get it. And like, then you can really understand like that empathy.
That's funny. It was weirdly, I actually didn't start to understand that till later in my life, even though I grew up like that. I felt like I was at the lowest. Like, I felt like I was like, no one could have it worse than me. No one could have it worse than my family. The stuff like, that we had to do to survive. I just assumed no one could. And it also probably was because I grew up in such a rich area.
Yeah. That move.
That was crazy. Going from literally like a trailer park where there's a bunch of crazy, like, I'd call them like cave children that would just like, I saw some crazy things that, like, I remember that's one of the things I was talking to my brother about. Like, we'd be out playing barefoot in the thorns doing our training and in the pricklies. And I remember the neighbor kids I won't say their name, but one of the kids had a shovel and he smacked, and these are like, they're probably like 7 and 9-year-olds. And he hits the older one across the head with a shovel. Just boom, hear the sound, everything. He's like knocked out, bleeding, and he's getting back up, and the parents just come out and yell at him and pull him inside. And like at the time, it was just like, it's just another day in the
right. Yeah.
All kinds of just crazy stuff that would happen. And then all of a sudden I go from that to this rich area
where things seem civilized, and you're like, whoa, this is not normal. I didn't know how
to act. Yeah, we didn't know how to act. We didn't know how to do anything, how to talk, like how to open up. But so like you were saying about having some empathy, I weirdly didn't. And I think it's because we were raised to be judgmental. It was just kind of like what we did. I don't know if it was part of like, it's like you'd go to church and you'd be like, oh, they, that family, I heard they're actually doing this, or they shouldn't be actually.
I never had empathy until like the last.
Oh, right. Okay.
No,
Yeah.
I couldn't even feel bad for you if you had the flu. I'd say it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm sorry. And I'd be like, that doesn't matter to me. Yeah. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't have it inside me. It wasn't a normal thing until I started getting healthy, and then I was like, whoa, I didn't realize I was unhealthy, how unhealthy I was in my thinking and my behavior and my addiction and all the things. Like I said, I was surviving every day. I didn't have time to be empathetic. I didn't have time to think about anything else except for, what I have to do it in every single solitary second to get to that next minute.
Yeah. Yep. I was the same way until recently, probably within the last, 5 years, when I went through divorce and stuff, that I already was trying my hardest, but there was a lot of eye-opening situations where I saw more things that I could work on. And just one of them was just being judgmental is crazy. I don't know how or why I was still judging people so much, like for no reason. And I'd be like, and half the time I started actually doing like experiments with it, where to prove to myself that it was all in my head and that they also go through different things. So I go to the gym every single day. I haven't missed a day in like over 3 years now. It's like, and I'll go every single day no matter what. And I know my body well enough to let certain things rest and other things know what needs to be worked on. But I was in the gym and I'd find myself, I'd be like, I see someone and I just would like hate them for no reason. I'd be judging them. I'd be like, that guy looks like the biggest, guy's the biggest douche right there. Yeah. Like, and I would just hate him. And so I started introducing myself to everybody. And it was a weird time where I was going through divorce. I had all these other things going on. And I met some of my best friends that are like real people, real friends, just by doing that randomly, like introducing myself to strangers. I
became fast friends because you had a connection.
Yeah, one of them.
Back in the day, you might have been like blown them off for either reasons because
or just
they
never talked to them. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I have real friends, and I don't have in my life. I like to be like I keep the people around me if they're good, and even sometimes they may be good, but I don't feel like they're ready. And it sounds weird, but I don't feel like I don't know, maybe they're not currently putting in the work. I don't know, that probably sounds weird, but
no, it doesn't actually.
People that are like ready to be in my same
lane.
Yeah. Like just working hard, always trying to improve, being as positive as you can, even obviously I'm not perfect in being positive, but I want them to point that out to me. And I have people around me that will now. And I found most of them in the past, 3 or 4 years since really trying to evaluate myself. And I found them in doing weird little practices like that, where I was like, I'm just going to go introduce myself to this person I really didn't want to. And then I formed some of the best, strongest relationships that I ever have in my entire life. And people that to this day, I would do anything for them. And I know that they would do anything for me, which I didn't grow up with. I grew up, never feeling like I was enough. Like I feel like I had to earn my value, earn my love, or whatever it was. Which is a whole different, the love, that's something crazy to me. We were never told that growing up. Yeah. And so people don't realize how hard it is for someone to say it if they didn't hear it.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't given that. I wasn't told that. And so because of that, I'm super, super protective of mine. And even when I was married, I remember it was hard because I couldn't even say I love you to her for like the first year probably. And even when we were married, like it was so, I would say it it was just really rare.
Yeah.
And in my relationships since then, I've tried to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still hard to this day. Like if you don't hear it, it's like, I don't trust people enough to give them that. And, anyway, it's
a scary thing to say too.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you didn't hear it growing up or, weren't told and you hadn't been using it yourself, it's like, those are big words and to say them, but then maybe not feel it back or receive it. There's a lot of fear in those words. But then once you start practicing them and you're like, wow. And there are people out there that they're not like us. Yeah. There are a lot of people out there that weren't, wounded or had situations, growing up where they had to look to other people to see what's normal. And you're opening yourself up to that and to people that are helping you like find new experiences and new ways. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think part of that too is, as far as like this saying, I love you, I feel like to me, it means something different. It means something more than other people, because it wasn't necessarily that I was scared of them not returning it. It was more that I was scared of it being too powerful. It sounds weird, but like if I said it to someone, I was like, I'm in. Like if I said like, I love you, it's like, I'm in. But it feels like everyone else would just throw it around, like they grew up hearing I love you all the time. So I would start to date someone. This is like post-divorce. The first couple women that I dated within 2 weeks would say they love me or they're in love with me. And I would instantly like step back. I was like, nope. And in a lot of cases I would just end it because I was like, it was almost like I just didn't believe them or don't think they understood what that really meant. And then it's like later that I learned, okay, maybe I don't understand what it actually means. And maybe I'm putting too much emphasis on it. Like you can still love someone without, necessarily being in love with them. And some people just need to hear it.
But 2 weeks into a relationship, sometimes it could mean that they're trying to lock that down a little too soon. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to be all weird, but but it's kind of the way that a person says it. You could love somebody because of who they are, and then you can be in love with somebody because you feel like they're your person that could be your person forever. You know what I mean? Or you could be falling in love. I mean, there's just so many ways to use the word, and it really has a lot to do with, how they're saying it in what context. Yeah. And it takes a lot of learning when you've never heard it your whole life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this has been great. I appreciate you coming out and being vulnerable. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about while you're here?
I don't think so. No, I mean, that's the problem with me is I'm just so, I feel like even in this time, I've been so just everywhere bouncing back and forth.
I think you did a great job. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. How are your brothers and sisters doing? Are they all doing good? And like,
everyone has been successful, which is, something. Or
it was ingrained in them to work. And if you work, you can become successful. Yeah. And your dad?
So my parents got a divorce a few years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't really, and that's a whole different story. But so I'm not super close with a lot of my family. I don't communicate with most of them on a regular basis. My two brothers are the ones that now we talk now, but I don't really see my family unless it's like, Christmas, like once a year or something like that. But they're all doing well, I think. And yeah, like at least all the siblings, like everyone is in their own, whatever they decide to do, whether it's just like becoming a mom and
That's a huge
being
job.
super successful. Yeah, or my sisters. I have one that my oldest sister just barely had her first, but just starting her family. But all of them are amazing moms, big families for the most part. My brothers are both doing really well in their fields, and I got the opportunity to work with one of them for a little bit when he was here in St. George, but he just recently moved. But he's the one that had the PT clinic that I was working at. So, but yeah, that's one thing has definitely been across the board. All of us we will work, and I'm grateful for that for sure. No matter, might have come in a weird way or in ways that I didn't want, but I'm still grateful for that for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. People say, and I say it too, I wouldn't change anything because I wouldn't be who I am now. But let me tell you, if a few things were changed, I'm sure I wouldn't have been hurt about it.
I agree. I'm like, I want to have like the all or nothing. Like, well, I wouldn't change anything, but I'm like, there's a few things I could definitely do without.
Yeah. Like I don't have regrets now, but trust me, I could have launched my career a lot sooner, but who knows? Maybe we would have taken things for granted or not appreciated them as much as we do now because of the things we've gone through.
Right. Exactly.
Things are more valuable to us.
And I think even though it may sound dumb, but I think it makes you more real to go through that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't know necessarily how to express it for a long time, there's people that you meet that are just real people. And my friends, I call them the real ones. Like, and everybody knows, that's close to me knows what that is, but there are people that I'm like, from pretty much right off the bat,
Fast friends.
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're the real ones.
Yeah. They're the real ones. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Yep.
Well, Trevor, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it and opening up. And I learned more than I thought I would. And it's given me insight on why, kids behave the way they do in school. And it's because, like what you shared was like, wow, I had a couple of those kids. I was one of those kids, but I would try to like nobody notice me kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, your story is pretty amazing. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.